Why would you ask such a question about the holiness and the beauty of Eretz Israel? Is it a fertile land or not a fertile land? I mean, why would God bring us to a non-fertile land? Okay. And then what about trees? Are there trees there or not? Strengthen yourselves. Assume the responsibility of this task and take from the fruit of the land. Bring it back. Let's go see it. And these were the days, the Torah reminds us, that at the time, the season of the first ripe grapes. So we're expecting them to bring back some nice grapes to show us. One more thing I want to mention to you before we go further in this story is go back to the beginning of the 799, the top. Hashem spoke to Moses saying, send forth men if you please. Can it be as fairly assumed that if you please means that there's no command from God to do this?
Yes.
Can we say that this is Moshe Rabbeinu is nearly elective? And why would this be an elective? I don't know. But I mean, God promised you the land. What are you worried about? Just go in there. You're worried about how to fight and what it's fortified and there's a big fighters or whatever and they're numerous. Don't worry about that. Shem told you he'll guide us what to do. I mean, we're living as is in this midbar, in this desert over the last year and a half nearly. We're living pretty much miraculously.
Yes.
I mean, the food's coming from the heavens, the water's coming from a rock.
Closed up where.
Right, closed in where, and of course, remember this: we just came out of Egypt, where there was 10 plagues, miraculous departure, and splitting the sea. I mean, what's not the trust of God here? Why do we have to do this sort of elected sort of stuff? And then of course he says further. If we go back to 801, we say over here, they ascended. What does it mean they ascended and spied the land? Why does it simply say they go? They went. What does the ascend mean? To go up. They went out. They went up to spy the land. Why up?
They went out one way.
Well, why did they go up? What's upward? I mean, so we have to assume that it could very well be that I'm not sure the land really was upward in direction. But in any event, maybe it's because we have to believe that the land of Israel is so holy that as you go into Israel, you're going up. You're going up. You're going up in religious and spiritual levels, perhaps. Okay, so they went out to the private land, and they went to all these places, Zin, the Kamath, and they ascended in the south. We usually descend to the south. Once again, we can say the ascent means what? Means the holiness of the land. And he arrived at Hebron. Let's take a look at this 22 again. They went to the south and he arrived at Hebron. You know, odd? They went and he went to Hebron. That means that one singular guy must have veered off from the rest of them and went to Hebron. Not everybody else went to Hebron. Right? And then there was some giants over there. Hebron had been built 7 years before the of Egypt. They arrived at the valley of Eshcol in 23, cut from there the vine, cluster of grapes, put on a double pole, pomegranates, figs, and they named the place the valley of Eshcol because of the cluster of grapes, and 25. They returned from spying out the land at the end of 40 days. They went and they came. What does it mean they went and they came in verse 26? They went where and came where?
They went one way.
Where they go? Where they go? Where they went? Where they go? They went what? South. Okay. And then they came. They went and they came. Let's see here. They went and they came. Same thing. Unless it means, and they went and they came. Means they went and they came back.
Yes.
So why do I need to know that they went, but I already know they went? I mean, Moshe sent them out, and we said they went up to the south, and they went up, and they ascended, and they went to Hebron. Well, why does the Torah gotta tell me? Remember, by the way, that they went out of the camp and came back to the camp. Just say they came back. They did the spying. They looked at everything, and then it came back. So that's also a little difficult here to understand. Anyway, they came to the entire assembly of children of Israel to the wilderness, brought back the report with them, and they showed them the fruit of the land. Great fruit of the land. It's fertile. It's beautiful. Look at these grapes. Whoa, beautiful. It's strong. They reported to him, and they went back to Moshe Rabbeinu, and they said, we arrived at the land to which you sent us, and indeed, it flows with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. What a beautiful, beautiful report. But then, in verse 28, who can find me a horrible word in verse 28? Find me the most horrible word you can find in verse 28. Say it again. But. That old, what do you call that? That infamous but, right? But they said, the people that dwells in the land is powerful. Cities are fortified, very great. We saw sort of offspring of the giants. Amalek is there, the Hittite is there, the Jebusites, the Amorites, the Canaanites. Oh, yeah. Well, does that sound like a positive report? So we got some positive and some negative.
Negative.
Like a positive and negative. We got the positive, the fruits, the negative, all these giants, right? Now, Kalev in verse 30 silences the people towards Moses. What did Kalev do? What did the people do?
He stood up.
What was happening where Kalev had to silence the people towards Moses? What were the people doing?
They were going after.
They were going after Moses.
Moses.
They're going after Moses because why? Because they're scared. Yeah. So he silenced them. Said, don't blame Moshe Rabbeinu. Take it easy. Hang on. Right? Don't lose, hang on to your shirt. Right? And he said, we shall surely ascend and conquer it, for we can surely do it. No problem. Well, but the man who ascended with him said, we cannot, for it is too strong for us. They brought forth the children of Israel an evil report. Give me another word in Hebrew for an evil report.
Sorry.
Good old Kevin. Good old Kevin. How can you not love this guy? Lashon Hara. Oh, that's right? Evil report, Lashon Hara, right? And they say about the land, not about people, about the land. That means that the Torah doesn't like you speaking about anything bad, right? I'm driving. This car stinks. This car's no good. This car, you don't speak bad about a car. Well, maybe you can. Right? What's the difference? Car small. Why can't? Why can't you speak bad about a car? You know that player on that team over there, he stinks. He's no good. He can't shoot. He can't score a basket. Speak Lashon Hara about the guy. But the truth is, you see, the real Lashon Hara here is on the land of Israel per se. It's a holy land. It's God's gift. If you're speaking about the negativity about the land of Israel, you're speaking about
Hashem. He's speaking negatively about Hashem.
that's pretty bad Lashon Hara. Not that God didn't say and gets too upset about it. It's not, God is not worried about his reputation. You understand? But it's still wrong for us. I mean, how can we do such things? Anyway, bad news. And they said, the land which we have passed to spy it out is a land that devours its inhabitants. The rabbis teach that the land devours its inhabitants is because when they got there, it seemed to have been a plague, and all they saw was 100 funerals. And they kept on seeing funeral at the funeral. And then when they visited, they thought to themselves, everybody dies around here. Right? Anyway, all the people we saw were huge. 6'10", 7 foot. All playing basketball.
Yeah.
7'5", 7'3", 7'2", Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Who's over the what we're seeing over there? We saw the Nephilim, the son of the giants. We were like grasshoppers in our eyes and in their eyes. Why do you say we were like grasshoppers in our eyes and their eyes? Simply say we were grasshoppers in their eyes. What's is our eyes business?
They esteem themselves low.
Yeah, that's right. They really had no self-esteem, no self-confidence at all. They felt like, I mean, let's put it this way: if you're a 5'4" jockey who rides horses, and you're sitting next to Will Chamberlain, I mean, you feel a little intimidated too. Yeah, I mean, think about it. I one time saw a picture. It was a cute picture of this. Anybody know Chamberlain? Don't know what.
Yeah.
You do know? Okay, yeah. Big guy, 7'2", whatever. And Chamberlain sitting next to the jockey. The name of the jockey was Willie Shoemaker. And it was even about 5'4", and it was a hysterical picture. It really was kind of funny to watch.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess I can understand. They felt pretty dwarfed. Anyway, as you can see, as we move on to chapter 14, there's a national hysteria. The assembly raised up, and issued its voice and wept. What does it mean to issue its voice? They start screaming, right? Raise up your voice, yelling, screaming, and crying, right? Oh, yeah, let's go, blah, right? People get, as it says on the margin, what does it say? National hysteria. Okay. All the children of Israel murmured against Moshe and Aaron. What's murmured mean? Spoke. What kind of speak is murmur? It's almost like a little but it's more. It's not the sound of the voice. A murmur means to say passing a bad gossip about it. Wish I didn't do this. He said this. They're still murmuring within themselves. Just and you know means what? It's like a heart, right? You ever see people do that?
Yes.
That's what they're doing. Okay, but it's pretty bad. And they're going against Moshe and Aaron and the entire assembly, and they said, and all the people said this. If only we had died in the land of Egypt, or if we only died in the wilderness, that would have been better. Why do you bring us to the land to die by the sword? Our wives and young children will be taken captive. Isn't it better that we should turn to Egypt? What would you call these kind of words? Tell me, what kind of talk is this? Ungrateful. Took you out of Egypt, took you out of slavery, took you out of bondage. It's a lack of gratitude. But this is not the first time the Jews have done this, right? And every juncture of challenge, there was let's go back to Egypt. That sounds almost like an empty threat.
And it's accusatory of Moses.
And it's accusatory and God. So I mean, it's really when you really throw a gift that someone gives you right back in its face, so to speak. I mean, it's lacking gratitude. It's such a horrible quality. And frankly, we've talked about it. As Jews, we said we come from Judah, and Judah's Yehuda, and Yehuda's thankfulness, and that Leah called Yehuda thankful, and then thanked Hashem when she got Yehuda as the fourth child. And the whole sense of appreciation and gratitude, which is the earmark of our peoplehood, along with those other three qualities I talked about from Avinu. We're grateful people. That's our name. Our name is thank you. Yehuda, Todah. Todah is our name. And we said that people who don't have appreciation shouldn't be with us. Well, we're acting pretty bad over here. It's an interesting thing how you could understand the validity of this document. Is this really true? Did God really write this? Come on, give me a breath. The answer is, who's going to write a book that's filled with self-depreciation? You ever have an author that writes a book bad about himself? You ever have a guy writing an autobiography, how bad I was, how rotten I was, how good I was? The book being written from the Jewish people, of the Jewish people, by the Jewish people, how bad we were. That's as honest you can get. Honest as the day is long. And we're pretty bad over here. Said one another. Verse 4. Let's appoint a leader and let us return to Egypt. Get rid of Moshe Rabbeinu. Well, you talk about what do you call it? The challenge. Or talk about rebellion, mutiny, right? Whoa, right? What did Moshe and Aaron do? How did they respond? They fell on their faces. You can't respond to that. You can't respond to hysteria. The response is so noteworthy. Don't you understand that these people are out of their minds? You're going to try and reason with them? You're going to try and prove you're right? Moshe, they got a feeling on the face of me that I got nothing to say. No comment. You're being accused of treason. You harmed the people. How dare you take them out of Egypt? You don't know what you're talking about. You're crazy. You're a lunatic. You're it's stacked against me. All the evidence. So Moshe Rabbeinu falls on his face before the entire congregation of the assembly of the Jewish people. Now, verse 6. Joshua, the son of Nun, remember that man Joshua? That was the man that was Moshe Rabbeinu's devoted disciple, but he changed his name, right? And Kalev, now remember who Kalev is. Kalev is back over there on verse 30, on the page before, where he silenced all the people and said good about Israel and said, we can do this, right? And now so Joshua joins Kalev of the spies of Israel, and they tore their garments. What does tearing the garments mean when you tear something? Mourning. Grief. And frankly, they're broken because they supported Moshe. Joshua for sure did. He's ready. And Kalev did, as you can see, he silenced the people against Moshe. And they would not agree with the other spies. They spoke to the entire assembly of children of Israel, saying, verse 7, the land that has been passed through to spy it out is very, very good. Verse 8, if Hashem desires us, he brings us to this land, gives to us a land that flows with milk and honey. But do not rebel against Hashem. You should not fear, for they are our bread. We're going to eat them up like bread. That's how we will destroy them. Don't worry. Their protection has departed from them. They have no protection. Hashem is not with them. Hashem's with us. Do not fear. What do the people do? They pelted them with stones. And the glory of Hashem appeared. He said the meaning in verse 11, Hashem said to Moses, how long will these people provoke me? How long will they not have faith in me? Despite all the signs that I performed in their midst. I will smite them with the plague and annihilate them, and I shall make you a greater, more powerful nation than they. Kill everybody out and save Moshe Rabbeinu. And only those others that speak good for Israel. Moshe said to Hashem in verse 13, then Egypt, from whose midst you brought this nation up, will hear about it. And they will say about the inhabitants of the land, they have heard that you Hashem are in the midst of the people, that you Hashem appeared eye to eye, your power cloud stands in front of them, and that a power of cloud you can go before them by day and by night. You, who is with the people by night and by day, by cloud and by fire, killed the people like a single man. Boom! And Egypt will hear it. Then the nations that heard of your fame, 807 will say, because Hashem lacked the ability to bring the people to the land. He was good enough at bringing them out of Egypt, but he couldn't get them into Israel. He swore to them this land, and he couldn't bring them in. And therefore he slaughtered them in the wilderness. That would be a desecration of Hashem's name. Defamation. We call that in Hebrew. Somebody? A chilul Hashem. Chilul Hashem is literally the worst crime that can ever be committed. If someone ever does something that brings about disgrace to Hashem, he has defamed Hashem's name. We're told that we should rather die than cause Hashem's name to be bad and not be revered and not be honored and glorified. And people are making fun of Hashem. He's not, he can't do it. So now, on that argument, he says to Hashem, verse 17, may the strength of my Lord be magnified. Be strong. Don't give in. And Hashem, verse 18, Moshe Rabbeinu begins to cry and to sing. You are who? Slow to anger, abundant in kindness, forgiver of sin, and you cleanse, but not completely. Recall the iniquity of the parents upon the children, third and fourth generation. Forgive now the iniquity of the people, according to your greatness, and you have forgiven the people from Egypt until now. And so Hashem responds in verse 20, I forgive them because of your word. Moshe saves the people. He could have become a great nation himself. So God wanted. And instead, he forgives the people. He forgives them. Moshe Rabbeinu does not want to self-glory. Again, another validity of this document. Moshe, the author, does not want the glory. Don't make me a nation out of me. Save my people as I live. The glory of Hashem will fill the entire world. Here's what's going to happen, verse 22. All the men who have seen my glory and my signs that I performed in Egypt in the wilderness have tested me 10 times. That's enough. I've had it. And I've not heeded my voice. If they will see the land that I've sworn to give their forefathers, and that means if they will see it, and all of anger me shall not see it. But my servant Kalev, he will. And that's the story in a nutshell. Now, the problem with this whole story is that the very first verse, turning back to page 80 and 798, Moshe didn't have to do this. God didn't command him to do this. Why does Moshe do this? Why does Moshe send out of his own volition his spies? But it gets worse. It gets worse. Why? Because this is what it says here. Moses says, God says it's your deal. You don't have to do it. In other words, you can trust me, and I'll go right with it. So Moshe all of a sudden hasn't trusted Hashem. Why does he want to do it for? And it gets worse. Moshe sends out these people, and they're all distinguished. Great leaders, great men. Right? But then Moshe prays for Joshua in verse 16. Why does he pray for Joshua? Because Joshua's in danger. He's going for surgery. What's the danger? What's the danger Joshua's in? Come on, tell me. Think. What's the danger?
Going back to
What's the danger he's in?
He's searching about remorse.
He's suspicious that maybe they might. So if he's suspicious that they might, he prays for Joshua so that he doesn't fall into their hands, right? And join them. Now, he doesn't pray for the others. Why doesn't he pray for the others? So here's what comes a very interesting thing. He has a very deep personal relationship with Yeshua. If you're a smart man in this world, or woman, you will establish a relationship with the Rebbe. Because your Rebbe will pray for you. Your Rebbe will give you bracha. Your Rebbe loves you. Your Rebbe will take care of you. Your Rebbe will stand there for you in times of danger and whatever. Man's going for surgery, he calls his rabbi. Oh, come to the house and help me. Talk to me. Man is going to a new business. He calls the rabbi over. Would you put a mezuzah on my door? Make the business successful. Relationship with a rabbi, or the Rebbe, I should say, is a very special. And you all know the Chabad's got this. Chabad's got this locked up. They got the Rebbe. But on the other hand, it should be fair to say that while the Rebbe was a great man, and he was a Rebbe to them all, sometimes it's also additionally valuable for a personal Rebbe. And maybe men of the Chabad too. Maybe there were underlings in the Chabad hierarchy that the Rebbe had appointed as his close confidants. And I know about that because many of those close confidants were actually were contemporaries of my grandfather, who was also a close confidant of the Rebbe. And he would tell them, please dispatch this bracha to this or respects this. And we all know that the rabbis of today in Chabad are shluchim of the Rebbe, and the Rebbe is even here. So who do you call him? Call shluchim. Call Rabbi Lematinsky. You know, call the Rebbe. Call your personal Rebbe. So Moshe Rabbeinu cannot pray for the others, but he can pray for Yeshua because of that personal relationship. That's very, very simple. Now, the problem with all this is that Moshe Rabbeinu has his suspicions, and he doesn't have to do it, and he does it anyway. What were you thinking? And look what happened. Look what happened. I mean, we're going back and analyzing that. We just finished the movie, right? It was a quick movie. Now we're going back to analyze the movie. If you analyze the movie, right? We're analyzing the movie. And what's he doing? What's the point? What's he thinking? And he sends them out, not electively. And in so doing, he's worried. As they leave, he's worried. And but then the question, why is he worried? Look what it says in verse 3. They're all distinguished men, heads of the children of Israel, heads of the tribes. Now imagine, let's say, here in Los Angeles, you have, let's say, the La Brea community, and you've got the Pico community, right? And you've got the Valley community, and you've got various different communities, right? And in all these different communities you have, each one's got, you know, let's say their main rabbi, their main leader, right? And you're setting up the top rabbi in La Brea, the top rabbi in Pico, the top rabbi in Venice, the top rabbi in the Valley, top rabbi in Tarzana, top rabbi in Santa Monica, and they're all out, and these are the old top guys. They're top guys. Was they messed up? That's another question. How they messed up? But the question is, why does Moshe Rabbeinu, why does he have suspicion of these guys? Why would he be suspicious of these top guys? So much so that you got to prepare and pray for Yeshua. What's also interesting is that while praying for Yeshua, he's not praying for Kalev. Why not? Because Kalev doesn't have that relationship. But yet Kalev ends up partnering with Joshua to say the right thing. How did that happen? Yeshua at least had what? Had a relationship, had a special bracha. The Rebbe, Moshe Rabbeinu, gave him a bracha. Correct? On the other hand, nobody gave Kalev a bracha. But wait a second. Maybe somebody did. Who can tell me who gave him a bracha? No. Somebody gave him a bracha. They went to visit the Ohel. I mean, they're not he went to visit the Ohel. Where did he go? He went to Hebron. Remember, he went on his own. Remember, they went and he went. They went up to the south, and he went to Hebron. He went to the Maras Machpelah, to the Ohel, to the Rebbe's resting place, to the resting place of who in those days? Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and there were those his wives. Correct? And he prayed there to please Hashem. Can you go to a Rebbe who's passed away? See, you can. Chabad goes to the Ohel every day, right? Right? They all go. Now, in going to the Ohel or to the cave of Machpelah, what are they saying? So basically, the way my father explained the blessed memory is, you ask your loved one or the Rebbe, whoever you're visiting, to please intercede on my behalf in heaven with Hashem. You can do that with your father's grave, or your mother's grave.
So that means he prayed for his beloved ones.
No, he
through
prayed.
Hashem?
He prayed that his beloved ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, would pray to Hashem in heaven on his behalf, and that would give him a bracha. People do that all the time with the Rebbe. You know, they send those letters and stuff, right? And so this is what he says. Both of them got two brachas, one from a live Rebbe, one from a passed away Rebbe. But who was the first to silence the people against Moshe, or going towards Moshe? Remember that passage we talked about? And who was the one that silenced them? Caleb, not Yoshua. Why didn't Yoshua take the initiative? Why did Caleb do it? You know why? Because they wouldn't listen to Yoshua. You know why they wouldn't listen to Yoshua? He's the teacher's pet.
Right.
Caleb, they listened to him. Yoshua, the people would not listen to him at all. They'd stone him. So he couldn't take that chance. So Caleb did. Because at the end, the two of them stood up. But let me talk a little bit about this Chil Hashem, this disgrace of Hashem. People are going to say bad about Hashem. Hashem doesn't have all the power. He couldn't take them into Israel. He killed them out. A horrible thing to say about God. How many people said bad about Hashem? I mean, and let's put it this way. The entire people, once they got the report, right, and believed the report, they all started clamoring against Moshe Rabbeinu, national hysteria. How dare you do this? And God is this, and so on. How many people planted this idea in their heads? Come on, do your math.
38.
How many people planted this nasty idea in the people's heads?
38.
You say 30?
38.
38, 40, 42, 46, 48.
No, the 40 people went out, right?
40 people went out? 40 people went out?
40. 40.
14? How many people went out? 12. And 2 of them said good.
40.
Zeri, you're killing me.
40 days, 40 days. We were there for 40 days.
It's 40 days, maybe. You see, everybody's a little afraid something to say. Because they'll end up looking silly or something. I was walking looking silly. It's beautiful. You try. Right? It's okay. Oh, people laugh at my expense.
So
Why
how
not?
many people?
Why not? Make the big value. Give people a laugh. Sarah, you're great.
There's 12 more.
So there were 12 Meraglim, 12 spies, the 12 tribes. 2 said good. How many said bad? That isn't higher trigonometry, right? 12 minus 2. We can do this, right? But the magic number is 10. Why? Because 10 represents totality. 10 fingers, 10 toes, 10 plagues on Egypt, 10 commandments, 10. And you remember that God got upset with the people and he claimed that they had tested him how many times? 10 times. We learned that, right? 10 is the cutoff. 10. And when you talk about 10 people, you're talking about what I like to have a million. And we need a million to be able to say God's holiness. What is the prayer of God's holiness? Kaddish, Kedusha, right? So if 10 people, it takes 10 people to sanctify God's name, it takes an equal number of people to destroy God's name. And make a Chil Hashem, which you're obligated to give your life. That's how bad it is. Now understand. And let's say it wasn't 10 and 2. Let's say it was 9 and 3. 9 said bad and 3 said good. None of this would have happened. None of this would have happened. Because it's the power of 10 that can build or destroy, honor God or disgrace God. It's the power of 10. And so these 10 committed this Chil Hashem and disgraced Hashem. And the 2 were helpless. They stood their ground. They didn't give in, which is important. In other words, if you're in the midst of a bunch of bums, bad people, stand up and be good. But they'll pounce on you. Get out of town. If you're living in Germany in 1939 and you see the atrocities that are happening, what should you do? Well, if you can't fight the power of the evil dictator, get out. You can't, you want to participate in that? You want to participate in killing Jews? Would you like to try that? Get out. So these 10 had this power. The power was that all the people bought into it. The people started to cry and weep and scream, national hysteria. What are we going to do? We can't go to Israel. Oh my God, we're in trouble. Ah! Because it was 10. Had it been 9, the people wouldn't have listened. And none of this tragedy would have happened. 9 people? No problem. 10? And they were 10 from death. And vice versa. And so you can make a Kiddush Hashem, sanctify God's name with a great Kedusha and Kaddish and davening, or you can make a destruction of Hashem's name, and by saying bad about Hashem, and then, but either way, you're going to convince people. If let's say we're having a minyan here, and it's 10 people, right? And the leader of the davening says, the Korah Zel, let's all say, everyone's going to say what? Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. You convince people of that. And if the Kaddish says, Ba'agolam is man Karev, Yimru Amen, everyone's going to say, Amen, Yeshmei Rabbah. Because 10 will join in and make that happen. So of course, this teaches us, of course, the power of community, the power of a group, and also tells you to hang on to the good group. Don't join bad people. People are doing bad things, stay away from them. Nasty things are happening, don't get involved. Don't let them pull you and convince you of all their nasty thoughts and ideas. Fight or get out. But don't join in a massive Chil Hashem, disgrace of Hashem's name. But do join in. I mean, you got an opportunity to say God's name is holy. You should be in minyan in the morning. Get out alone. Just to say Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Holy is Hashem. So that's worth it. Women come to shul Shabbos. The beauty is for them to join in and say Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. And so this is the tragedy of the Marag. But what's unanswered is why Moshe Rabbeinu did it and why these great rabbis did it. These are great rabbis, we said. We said over here, distinguished men, heads of the people, leaders of the communities, great rabbis. Great rabbis, and they did this. How did that happen? Now, if they were so great, then why did Moshe Rabbeinu have any suspicions? And if he had suspicions, why did he elect to do it when it wasn't commanded? So basically, to cut to the chase, Moshe felt that this was the time to start becoming more natural. In other words, we've been living all this time in the desert with water from the rock and food from the heavens, and we've been doing so and living in a miraculous fashion. Nobody's going to work, earn any money. Nobody's going to the store to buy any food. We're just living in some sort of miraculous experience, day after day, protected from the elements of the desert. And this is not of great concern to us in terms of, let's say, because I mean, this was Hashem's plan. But the idea is once you get into Eretz Yisrael, things are going to change. Now, this manna came down from heaven. This food that came down from heaven. We agreed that it didn't come in one lump, it came every day. If you took extra, it rotted on you. You trust Hashem. You don't trust? You're worried, you're nervous, you want to stock up? No stocking up. That's lack of faith. Rather, take every day your amount. Of course, one day of the week, you didn't take it, you took a double amount. Which day was that? Friday. Erev Shabbos. Okay, good. By Sunday, food came back again. Now, when you think about this, I mean, let's say the first time the boot came down, like when you go, whoa, right? People, let's go screaming at Moshe Rabbeinu way back when, they tested Moshe Rabbeinu 10 times. Let's say one of the times at the Red Sea, how can you bring us to the Red Sea? The Egyptians are coming. Watch Hashem, don't worry, we'll split the sea. And then each time the Jews are complaining, and they complain 10 times, it's the 10th time. One of the times they complained there's no food. The other time they complained there's no water. So God intervened and got the water from the rock and the food from the heavens. So can you imagine the people's phenomenon when the first food came down? Whoa. What does it taste like? It tastes delicious. Tastes. Let's see. I was in the mood today for a steak. Tastes like a steak. The other guy says, I was in the mood for chicken. Tastes like chicken. Whatever you're in the mood for, that's what it tasted like. Well, whenever a miracle happens, do you expect it to re-happen again? And again, and again, and again, and again? God put the seed once, and that was it. But with the man that came from heaven, it came day after day after day after day. After a while, we probably got too used to it. But can you imagine what a miracle is? That it happened every single day. Every single day you wake up in the morning. That's a miracle. Every single day. That's awesome. When did the man stop the cow? Anybody? Say it again. Okay, that's all. So Hashem told them, let me tell you a little lesson about this here. When you come to Israel, the miracles are going to stop. And now you're going to have to see my hand with naturalness. I want you to till the soil, get a job, go to work, get food, make it the right way, put it on the table, and then still remember me. Anybody can remember God when you see a miracle, but do you think of God when you earn the food yourself and grow the food yourself and water the land yourself and plant the land yourself? You might think that it might be you, but no, because you're going to take the last bit of manna, drop before they got the extra last bit, and we're going to take put it in a little package. And we're going to put the package next to the Torah in the ark. And anytime someone has any question about his parnos, anytime you're worried about making a living, anytime you're worried about what will I do, John, whatever, right? We'll take out this, what do you call it? This basket or this package of man and show it to you. This is how the Jews lived for 40 years. So you understand, Moshe figures that we're going to have to Israel, we got to become normal now, naturalized. We have to learn to live with a natural and normal, healthy, active effort, get a job, and still live in the ship. And every time you get your check on Friday, or whenever it is you get it, remember who signed it in the bottom. Hashem. That's who gave you the money. Right? Now that is really faith. Anybody can believe in faith when it comes down from the man, from heaven. Right? You gotta believe that the man didn't come from heaven, it came from the earth. That is less miraculous. The apple that you ate today, the fruit that you ate today, is that less miraculous than the man? Not at all. You gotta know that. You gotta know it's all from Hashem. So Moshe figures the proper way to do things is to rely on Hashem, but to make your effort. And to believe deep down that your effort is meaningless. Hashem does it all, but he wants you to make the effort because that's a building of your character. So that's why I do it. Yes, sir.
When did that stop, the showing of
Of the month,
the month?
when they started to destroy.
Until then?
Yeah, it's the whole time.
With that,
There's a little, mom, this ball look like a little popcorn, right? You ever see a popcorn machine?
yeah.
Right? Little popcorn machine, right? And the popcorn lasted for 100 minutes.
Same piece?
Same piece. I would bite into it. Personally, I would bite into that popcorn, but Anyway, so Moshe figures the right way to do this, is to make an effort. And so Israel decides to become a state back in 1948. And they got these vicious enemies that don't want to let them win. Right? So we could pray to Hashem and be done with it. Hashem doesn't want it. Hashem wants you to have an army, make an effort, go to fight, character, show them, demonstrate dedication, and don't worry, I'll be with you. And of course, when 500,000 Jews beat off 70 million Arabs, it wasn't their tanks that did it, and it wasn't their airplanes that did it, it wasn't their artillery that did it. What was it? In 1967, when I was there, and the state was only 19 years old, and it was 3 million Jews against 100 million Arabs, including Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, Iran, and Jordan. And we beat them in 6 days. What idiot would think that's because we have superior soldiers? We have people with superior effort. But it's all shame. And so, and Moshe figures we got to do our thing, we do our part. And the best thing of an army is use scouts, spies. There's spy out there. And get you know, in Israel in those days, there was a famous spy named Eli Cohen. Have you heard of Eli Cohen?
Yeah.
You are famous Eli Cohen, right? So, long before you were born. But Eli Cohen was a great hero. I remember I was there at the time when he was caught. And nobody knew about it until the time he was caught by the Arabs, by the Syrians. And Syrians are the most evil, most dangerous, bloodthirsty Arabs of them all, and they killed him. And there was begging for clemency and for saving his life from all over the country, all over the world, and it didn't make a difference. But what was important to know is that during the time that he was in Syria, he had gotten up. I mean, you want to know what James Bond? This guy was James Bond 10 times over, and reality. He found out the most significant installations of the Arabs on the Golan Heights and how they were destroying and harming the Israeli kibbutzim settlements on the bottom of the mountain. He got all that information over to Israel. He was hung in 1965, but Israel went to war in 67 with that information, took over the Golan Heights in a day. This entire Syria we beat up in a day and took over the Golan Heights. Now, because we want the Golan Heights back, you know, that didn't happen, right? We want the West Bank, you know, that didn't happen. But they all crybabies when they lose. But what's interesting is that you need spies to be able to fight effectively. So the Moshe Rabbeinu is making a good choice. Electively, let's send out these spies and get the report, and let's do it. And let's fight. And we know that Hashem is with us. And everybody agrees. But the problem was, if you take a look at the bottom of 799, verse 17, look at this. Moshe says to them, spy out the land and tell me. Climb the mountain. Verse 18. Tell me about the land, the people that dwell there. Is it strong or is it weak? Is it few or is it numerous? And how is the land in which it dwells? 70801, good or bad? Cities, open or and the land fertile and so forth. So Moshe Rabbeinu is telling them, I need a full report. So when they came back and gave the full report, what did they do wrong?
No, that wasn't wrong. What was wrong was that they said we can't go. We didn't ask them that.
This is a smart point. That was a mistake. When you're asked to report about something or someone, you can say what you know, but you can't make a judgment. The guy says to you, I want to know if I can hire this girl. I need a very experienced secretary in my office. What do you think of her? So you say, look, I know her to be not that effective. I know her to be ineffective. I know to misspell on the typewriter or whatever, you know. And I know when she makes bank accounts, she can't count. Whatever it is you want to say about it, right? He can say that. That's not Lashon Hara. What he can't say is, don't hire her. That's your decision to make. I ain't telling you what to do. That's Lashon Hara. If they tell the Jew, if they tell the Moshe, they're huge, they're giants, and they're powerful, thanks for the information. Now shut your mouth. But when they say we can't do it, that's Lashon Hara. You can't come to a judgment and tell someone else your judgment about somebody else. Prove it to you. Take a look. In page 803, right? Top of the page. Land flowing milk and honey, and it's true. But remember that bad butt over there on 2028? But the people is powerful and they're fortified and they're great and they're giants, right? So the people got a little unnerved by all that. Told the people, told them, silence them, relax, we can do this. Right? Verse 30, we can do this. 31, but then they opened their big trap. And what did they say? We can't do it. 32, that's when they brought forth to the children of Israel an evil report. What they said earlier was not an evil report, it was the truth. It was what they were asked. It was when they said, we can't do this, we can't go up there. That's when they said evil about Eretz Yisrael. That's when they said, Lashon Hara. That's the crime. Then again, Moshe Rabbeinu had suspicions of them. Okay, it's an elective to send them out. It's a good idea to send out, make an effort, and do the best you can, but maybe that's sending out the right people. Maybe that's sending out the right people. But they're best people. They're the rabbis of the community. They're the leaders of the people. Leaders, distinguished. Great people, long beards, black hats. I mean,
You let your ego get more.
okay, that's a good point. What do you say?
Didn't God want him to send women out as spies? And then, but
I don't believe that.
that's what
I
Rabbi
would,
Herzog said.
who says that?
Rabbi Herzog told me that. But then
I don't
Moshe
believe, I
Kagan
don't
said,
believe
yeah,
for one moment that it would be
that's
that
why the
crazy.
tragedy happened.
Not personally, but I don't believe for one moment that anybody would be that crazy to send out women. Plus, they got both, I don't know.
Maybe we start shopping.
What?
Maybe we start shopping.
They start shopping what they got there. That's it. Nachman, don't go anywhere. Nachman, don't go, I'm almost finished. Good, that's all, just water. Bring me water too while you're back. Anyway, so the point is that we have this Lashon Hara happen. And we have Chil Hashem happen. They disgrace God's name. People are going to say bad about God. Egypt will say bad about God. And that's Moshe Rabbeinu's argument, which saved the day. And the Lashon Hara, which is terrible. These are grave sins. And it's also the 10th time. Something's got to give here. Hashem has been forgiving all the time. He forgave on this, he forgave on that, he forgave on this, he forgave on that. Something got to give. Something got to give. So it still doesn't make sense why Moshe Rabbeinu has suspicions, worries about Joshua. Caleb himself has suspicions, has to go to Hebron to beg for help, right? And there's all the suspicions come true because they said Lashon Hara. They just didn't answer Moshe Rabbeinu's claims or expectations. What they did was they actually spoke what we're asked to do. We're not asking your opinion. Let's give you a report. Used to be a famous television show based in Los Angeles 30 years ago. Where the detective would look at try to speak to some person about the event to get some face and facts, and the person would blah, and the police, the investigator's going out of his mind, and he looks at her and says, just the facts, man. Just, you remember that? No, you don't guys remember that. It was fun. You gotta look at it. Old time TV in the fifties. Just the facts, man, just the facts. I mean, I gotta give you your opinion on the matter. Anyway. What ends up happening is that, I gotta end this 10 o'clock late. Is that Moshe Rabbeinu made this blunder, but it's really not his fault. He elected to do it. They were distinguished guys. He had suspicions, but they're distinguished guys. And they come up and do all this nasty stuff. The nasty stuff, of course, was not only the Lashon Hara and the Chil Hashem, the disgrace of Hashem's name, but the ramification was that the Jews will not go into Eretz Yisrael. And will have to wander in the desert 40 years for the 40 days. Right? It's your 40 days. Right? And it really is the immense tragedy. But the tragedy gets worse. Look what it says on page 803, verse 14. The entire assembly raised up and issued its voice, and the people wept that night. Take a look at verse, chapter 14, verse 1. See it? Tell me the extra 2 words in this sentence. The entire assembly raised up and issued its voice. The people wept that night. What's wrong? That's it. What's the extra two words? What words that don't belong in? No, you raised up your voice. What? What 2 words don't belong in that passage? Come on. Chapter 14, verse 1, page 803. Boy, oh boy, if you're in my yeshiva. I'll give no excuse. This is my eraser. You should have been in my class when I was teaching you. You should have been in my class when I taught you. I taught you. Oh, you went to MBY? Oh, you went to Betty Sheep. That's what it's called, MBY. More Betty Sheep. What's the extra 2 words? Come on, try. Danielle, tell me what. Tell me the extra 2 words. What? What? That's 3 words. What?
That night.
Well, wept is a valuable word. I have to know the why.
She's saying that
That night. She's quiet over there. Listen to her. That night. Why doesn't it have to say that night? But they wept. We know it was at that time. We know they wept that night. Then they wept. They wept 3 days later. 5 days earlier. They wept that night to tell you something.
Yeah.
This was a very monumental night. You know what night it was? Tisha B'Av, the ninth of Av. This was a night that forever and ever would be a day of tragedy and infamy in the history of the Jewish people as history would march on. On that day, the first base of Mikdash was destroyed. On that day, the second temple was destroyed. On that day, Beitar was destroyed. On that day, the Warsaw Ghetto in Europe was liquidated by the Nazis. On that day, in 1492, the Spanish, the Jews out of Spain, and on and on and on. The Almighty said, you wept that night. And here's where the word wept comes in. You're weeping for nothing. You cry for nothing. I'll give you something to cry about. And the day became enshrined in history. Strategy from this. From this night, Tisha B'Av is not only the night that the Meraglim came back, it's not only the night that Beitar was destroyed and the 2 Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. It's been a bad night and a bad day in history forever and ever. It's the most tragic and saddest day in our calendar. By the way, it's coming up. 9th of Av is coming up.
Yeah.
Of course, on the other hand, Mashiach might beat that. If Mashiach comes, we won't have to be crying that more 9th of Av. Otherwise, we're going to go out there and cry. How many people ever done a 9th of Av service with me? Did you do it? Did you? Yeah, tell me about that. So we can only understand the immenseness of this tragedy. 40 years in the desert. And by the way, in terms of 40 years in the desert, it was said that it would be until everybody over 20 would die. So the way it mastered, the way it was done was every Tisha B'Av night, everybody was required to dig their own grave and sleep next to the grave. And those that woke up the next morning would push those that didn't into the grave. And that's how the people died out at over 20 during those 40 years. And the children, of course, anyone 19 and under was the new generation that went into Eretz Yisrael under Yoshua 40 years later. And so, how does it happen? I told you as much detail as I possibly can to explain each passage, what each passage teaches. How did it happen? 10 times, 10 tests, 10 fingers, that's enough. The worst night of all time. The Lashon Hara, the Chil Hashem. Moshe's miscalculation. But what about these bums? I apologize, I have to call these rabbis bums. They became bums. How did it happen? What was about them that was something wrong with them? They looked well, they looked good, they had beards, they had hats, they wore a jacket, they wore a tie, they wore tzitzis. They looked like they were good rabbis. They were learning all the time. They were teaching all the time. What was wrong with them? So in order to learn what was wrong with them, we have to use an old lesson that I told you many, many times. Whenever we learn Parsha, always learn what the connection might be between the end of last week's Parsha and the beginning of this week's Parsha. Now, you can either cheat if you want, look back, or you can tell me if you can remember what was the end of last week's Parsha. Anybody, look at it. Look at the end of last week's Parsha, not you. Look at the end of last week's Parsha and tell me what happened there and how it connects to this week's Parsha. Miriam was speaking slander in Lashon Hara about her brother. Right? Rabbis teach that this took place on the 29th of Sivan, which, by the way, is in the 3 more days. And on that very day, that Miriam returned from her banishment. She was kicked out of the camp for 7 days, and she was quarantined, right? And she had leprosy and stuff, and now she returned, right? On that very same day, the Meraglim were dispatched. What's the connection? What's the connection between Miriam and the Meraglim? It's obvious. But here's the tragedy. The tragedy is, listen carefully, the tragedy is, says Rashi, that they saw what had happened in the story of Miriam. Everybody saw it. It was all over the camp. Everybody knew Miriam had spoken the Shlomo, was banished. And they didn't learn a lesson. And that was something that Moshe could not know. Moshe could not know that inside their heart they could not, and they did not internalize the message. When you see something happening like that, the age-old question, do you have to learn from your own mistakes, or can you learn from somebody else's mistakes? You see what someone does, how counterproductive it is, how harmful it is. Can you learn a lesson from that? Or do you have to be stupid enough to go through it yourself and learn from your own mistakes? We have this responsibility, and I said it earlier, get a Rebbe, get someone to teach you, get someone to help you, get someone to guide you. And if you don't have that, you'll be left and empty. Learn how to learn lessons. Learn how to take lessons. Learn how to view situations and pick up the message and smell the coffee. You see it? It's obvious. You know that Lashon is a bad thing. Now, they didn't go off with the intention to do it. But they went over the intention of not internalizing the message. How do we know? Take a look at this. When it said earlier on page 801, what did it say? It said, they, 801 verse 25. It says, they returned from spying the land at the end of 40 days. 26, they went and they came. So we said earlier, that's funny, we know they went. So the rabbis teach, you know what, put went and came together? They had the mindset was the same. But they were distinguished. You mean they had mind Lashon Hara when they left? What is Rashi telling? What the teacher, rabbis are teaching us is that they left and came back with the same mindset. A mindset not was interested in Lashon Hara, but a mindset that was disinterested in learning a lesson. That was their mindset, and that was their crime. And how much Rabbeinu couldn't foresee. How horrific can the damage be if you don't pick up a message and you don't see it right in front of your eyes? You need a brick wall to fall on your head? It's obvious. You see what happened to Miriam? What do you say? Yes.
So they knew it was like they.
Everybody knew.
They did process that Lashon Hara, but like they didn't.
Everybody saw Miriam, what Miriam did, what happened to Miriam. Everybody knew she was quarantined. She spoke Lashon Hara. She had a leprosy in her hand, but everybody saw that. But how many people take it to heart? Flashing news, Channel 4, there's a big earthquake in Peru, in the Dominican Republic, in Panama or whatever. Right? How many people think about, could happen to them? They did. In my lifetime, twice. You guys don't remember 71, but you do remember 94, don't you? How many people remember 94? Nobody? You're too young for 94? Anybody remember 94? Anybody? Right? I mean, so you should have a little, you should be somewhat prepared now. People don't understand the lessons. They don't pick up the message. Everybody in Germany thought, well, I know that this maniac is taking over the country and talking about Jews and this and that, but you know what? No one's going to listen to him. We're civilized. The Germans are good people. They're civilized people. They listen to classical music from Bach and Beethoven, and they're very elegant and eloquent and go to college and are very, very right. Watch out for people who go to college, especially UCLA. And they're so sweet, the Germans. Look how generous he is with his little dog, Fritzy. Fritzy had a bone, Fritzy. But the same guy that gives Fritzy a bone, puts a Jewish baby in the head. We have to learn lessons. When you internalize a lesson, pick it up. Understand the problem. Do what you have to do. Don't push it aside and say, it won't happen to me. That'll never happen to me. Maybe 40 years ago, 40 years ago, maybe 35 years ago, when I was in my other shul, they had a nice class, nice people just like you. And everybody said, I said goodnight to everybody left, And one woman walked out and got right in front of the shul. I made a new rule after that. I will not allow a woman to walk out alone at night. So I therefore used to ask the guys to escort this lady out. And one guy that I asked to escort the lady out proposed to her. And they got married. And they had 4 kids. And their grandparents today. I mean, that's a bonus to the story. But the point is that I took this very seriously. You don't walk alone at night. Certainly not women. I took it very seriously. You learn a lesson from situations, internalize the lesson. You see if you have a bad habit. And you know that every time you revisit this habit, you make the same mistake. Stay up late at night, can't wake up in the morning to that. And you run to work right away, because you got to be on time to work. And you forget the davening. And go to shul, we should read. Because you stayed up late. Well then, put eyes in your head. And realize that you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta get to bed early. To be on time. And these are just various examples. But this is the crime that people commit, that even great rabbis. This is the crime that people of great stature commit. Would a great rabbi think of saying Lashon Hara? No. Would a great rabbi think of disgracing Hashem's name? No. But yet he did. Why did he do it? Because he didn't learn a lesson from Miriam. Everybody's got to learn a lesson. And learn a lesson and internalize the lesson and seek out lessons. Says in the Mishnah, get for yourself a Rebbe and buy for yourself a friend. Why get a Rebbe and buy a friend? Why not get them both or buy them both? So the rabbis teach the reason that you get a Rebbe is because you need a Rebbe, but you're not obligated to pay it. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't taught for free. All other Rebbes from then on teach for free. You don't have to pay. He doesn't want. If he doesn't want to teach you, that's his bad, not yours. But a friend, you need more than a Rebbe. If the friend says, "I'll be a friend only if you pay me," then pay him. You have that. You should do. Because you know why a friend is more valuable? Because a friend will take it off. A friend will be messing up. The Rebbe won't do that because Rebbe's maybe shy, maybe the Rebbe doesn't want to hurt your feelings. He loves you, he doesn't want to hurt you and insult you, whatever, right? Don't worry about me. I insult. I don't care. But but the normal Rebbe's wouldn't insult you. But a friend might tell you off. That was a dumb thing you just did. I might not say, but your friend, pay him to tell you off. If he doesn't tell you off for free, pay him. Take him to lunch. But tell him, I need you to tell me where I'm messing up. And that is a smart person. And that's the whole idea behind trying to get this message across that you got to internalize. That's their crime. And that's the whole story of the Meraglim in the nutshell. It's a tragic story. It's a sad story, lasting ramifications forever, as we see with Tisha B'Av. But the major lesson for us to learn is learn the lesson. Internalize the lesson. That's what we have to learn from the Parsha. Now, there's so much more to talk about, and it's 10:20. Forget it. I mean, not forget it, but I'll say it for another hour. No, we can't do that. We can't do that. Anyway, we have a party here, a birthday party for. Whoa. And you prepared? All right, let's go make a bracha. Have a great Shabbos, everybody. Where'd he go? Good idea.
Was this your pen?
Brad.
Oh, it was big thing, okay.
Oh, sorry. That's right. One with Brad. With Brad. Is there anybody here that looks?
Great. Who's going to Pico? Anybody? You going to Pico? Where do you live in
Valley.
You live in Louisville.
So late.
Oh, that's yours. This is Papa.
Bring that over. Bring that over.
Can I call you tomorrow? I'll see you, Rabbi. Yeah.